Welcome to our Bible study session. Today we look at the teaching of chapter 4 of Genesis. Lessons in chapter 4. Lesson number 1. Chapter 4 continues with the theme of, or rather, continuation of the allegory that we saw in chapter 3. In this chapter 4, now we have the allegory of the names of the sons of Adam. Cain was given the work to till the land, the soil. And the name Cain represents the body and its wants and weaknesses. Abel kept flocks, signifying blood offering and soul. That means connection with God. So these two sons, rather than names of real names that could have for identification, like for I and you, these names are used to signify the two components that make a man, that is the body and the soul, represented by the soil and the flock, which brings about the offering of blood. Number 2, this chapter introduces the idea of offering as a thanksgiving to God. Both Cain and Abel were offering to God as a thanksgiving offering. God had given them a flock and had given them food from the soil, the vegetation, and therefore they were giving it back to God as an offering of thanksgiving. Number 3, we are introduced to other effects of sin, that is anger, resentment, and heavy guilt that comes with shame. Cain represents all this. When Abel was doing good and he did wrong, he ended up killing his brother, and this brought him shame, resentment that was brought about by deep anger. Number 4, this chapter introduces what is the prerequisite for sin. A grave sin must be out of full knowledge. There must be willingness to commit the sin. This is seen in verses 8. Cain led Abel to where he had planned to kill him. So grave sin is planned, is fully willed, and then it is committed by that person with full knowledge of what he is doing. Number 5, sin begets sin. It pushes us further away from God, as in verse 9. After Cain did wrong and sinned, he went further away from God, just like his father and mother after they found themselves naked. And the mother and father of Cain became confused. Cain now becomes rude to God and asks him maybe he's the brother's keeper, and that pushes him further away, and he is given a punishment to wander all around his life. Number 6, for the first time, superiority and dignity and sacredness of human life is announced. Spilling of human blood is a curse, like in the case of Naboth. When people fight and kill for land, the land they fight for becomes wasteland, and whatever comes from that land is cursed. When we fight for land, when we kill for land, that land itself becomes our curse. And whatever work we do on that land is futile, and it brings curses to generation after generation. Number 7, physical death is for the first time experienced on land, and we are introduced to primordial power to procreate for purposes of posterity and as indicated by the genealogy. So when death, physical death was introduced, God also introduced through the genealogy that we are told of Cain begetting who begetting who. It shows that God put in human being now the primordial power to procreate. And by procreation, life is sustained and posterity is sustained on earth. Number 8, despite his grievous sin and mark of death, God was still merciful. We are introduced to the mercy of God. Cain was still a source of life and goodness. He bore Enoch, who became a friend of God. Despite his weaknesses, despite his shortcoming, Cain still had the breath of life that came from God. And therefore, God was still merciful to him and made him a procreator. So he was not denied the primordial power to procreate. Number 9, God gave hope and new beginning to humanity when Adam and Eve gave birth to Seth or Sheth. Adam and Eve would have felt that they lost everything after Abel was killed by the brother Cain, and Cain was sent away from the land and was cast. Maybe they would have thought that life ended, but God gave them a new beginning by the birth of Sheth. God will always give us a new beginning even when we are in total darkness or when our life is totally in darkness. Lastly, chapter 4 is a clear indication of duality of forces in play in the world and in human life, the force of good and evil. This chapter introduces us to choices where a man now have to choose between good and evil, as it were with Adam and Eve when they chose to eat the fruit that they were forbidden to eat. Have a good time and may God bless you.